Tonight, called out by your own caucus.
It has never been clearer that this Parliament is done.
Another Liberal pushes for Justin Trudeau to go.
When the Prime Minister returns from his holiday, he's going to have very few options left available to him.
Plus the prediction from a political insider. Another death at a Nova Scotia encampment.
We're normalizing not only living outside in all seasons in tents, but also dying in tents outside.
The demand to address the housing crisis.
The housing construction, the availability it's just not keeping pace.
A fire truck in Florida split in half by a train.
I heard this loud crash. Sounded like a boom or something.
And holiday hoops that go beyond competition.
Spread some brotherhood, some unity, and just to keep them off the streets as well.
Learning character on the courts.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. We begin with breaking news out of South Korea, where at this hour, at least 85 people are dead after a terrible plane crash. That is the moment the plane bursts into flames after it skids off the runway and hits a wall. This happened at Muan International Airport on the southern tip of South Korea. Officials say the landing gear malfunctioned and the jet came down on its belly. There are early reports it may have hit a bird mid-flight. The Boeing 737-800 plane left from Bangkok with 181 people on board. 2 crew members have been rescued, but once again, at least 85 people have died when a jet burst into flames at a South Korean airport. Russia's president stopped short of taking responsibility for a plane crash that killed 38 people this past week. But Vladimir Putin did apologize for the tragic incident happening in Russian airspace. Experts say the jet from Azerbaijan was most likely hit by a Russian missile as it was trying to land. At the time of the crash, Russia was trying to bring down Ukrainian drones in the area around Grozny. Today, one of the victims, a 13-year-old boy, was laid to rest in Azerbaijan. The child was flying alone on Wednesday en route to visit his mother. 29 people survived that horrific crash. And we have some terrifying video from Florida where a high-speed train slammed into a fire truck, sending 3 firefighters and a dozen passengers to hospital. The passenger train barreled into a fire truck responding to an emergency call. The truck left a mangled wreck. The front of the train destroyed.
Everyone's conscious. We haven't been out there yet to be able to talk to them and, get details on it.
I heard this loud crash. Sounded like a boom or something. First responders, police, fire, ambulances, and all that. I was just I couldn't believe my eyes.
Questions linger, with local and federal authorities now investigating. Yet another Liberal member of Parliament is joining the chorus of voices demanding Justin Trudeau resign as Liberal leader. The Calgary MP says he's been calling for leadership change behind closed doors for the past year. And CTV's Jeremy Sharon tonight shares the view of a former insider and friend of the Prime Minister.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
While his departure now seems more likely than ever, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's political future is, for now, still uncertain.
The end is inching closer. The room for maneuver is being more and more limited. When the Prime Minister returns from his holiday, he's going to have very few options left available to him.
As he faces fresh calls to step down, Calgary MP George Chahal is the latest addition to a growing list of Liberals to go public with their concerns, sharing publicly letters sent to Liberal caucus and the party's president, stating that the Prime Minister no longer has the support of caucus, and to maintain some dignity, he should immediately tender his resignation.
It has never been clearer that this Parliament is done. No one, it seems to me pretty clear, no one has the confidence of this House at this point.
Meanwhile, new insights from the Prime Minister's former chief advisor and close friend, Gerald Butts, who says the Prime Minister was dealt a staggering blow when longtime ally Chrystia Freeland resigned from his cabinet.
It's just another indication of what I think is the obvious and the inevitable, which is that Justin Trudeau will not be prime minister or will not remain in office really through the midpoint of January. I think the writing is on the wall.
In a Saturday blog post, Butts says Freeland's exit makes Trudeau's departure more likely, writing Mr. Trudeau was unlikely to lead the Liberal Party into the next election and is now much less likely to do so.
If Jerry Butts is kind of soft launching this idea that Justin Trudeau will not be leading the party into the next election, I mean, that's not a surprise to me.
The Prime Minister is said to be thinking about his future during the holiday break.
Butts says if Trudeau does leave, the only way forward is a real leadership race rather than appointing a new leader, as some have suggested. Chahal has already urged the party to start preparing for that race. Morella?
Jeremy Sharon in Ottawa. A Conservative MP has promised to introduce a non-confidence motion in early January with a plan to put it before the House of Commons and try to bring down the minority government by the end of that month. A man has been found dead in an encampment near Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, the third death of this kind in that province in recent weeks. Housing advocates say the problem is clear: not enough shelter spots for those who so desperately need a warm place to stay. CTV's Colton Preil reports.
For the third time in just over a month, a man in his 50s has died at a Nova Scotia encampment. Police are looking into the cause of death, but advocates say it's part of a growing trend that governments at all levels aren't doing enough to stop.
The fear is that we're normalizing not only living outside in all seasons in tents, but also dying in tents outside.
Across the country, emergency shelters are overwhelmed. In Halifax, there are over 1,200 people who say they're homeless. Of that, 173 are living unsheltered in tent encampments, on the streets, and in vehicles. While in Toronto, roughly 200 people are turned away from city shelters every night.
We're talking about over 12,000 people a night who are in our emergency shelter system. That's the frustrating part. The housing construction, the availability is just not keeping pace.
It means more people exposed to the elements and ultimately more deaths. In Toronto, deaths among the homeless have skyrocketed since 2017, doubling during the pandemic.
If you're unhoused in Toronto, for example, your life expectancy is about 30 years less than it would be for the average citizen.
We want to find shelter for them.
It comes amid a political push in Ontario to allow cities to dismantle tent encampments, even if there isn't enough shelter space in the city.
If you're going to get rid of encampments, this isn't going away. So what is the alternative? What we are lacking is proper housing.
Ottawa promised $240 million over the next 2 years to help the provinces end encampments and create more transitional homes. A $50 million deal was signed with Quebec earlier this month. Morella.
Okay, Colton, thanks. We might not need as much student housing. India says thousands of their citizens come to Canada under the guise of studying, only to leapfrog illegally into the U.S. Their officials say some Canadian colleges are part of the ruse. CTV's Kamal Karamali and the flaws in the system.
New claims that Canadian colleges may be complicit in human trafficking cases, sending shockwaves.
It's a very serious situation.
Indian officials allege there are 2 entities in India who make arrangements with hundreds of Canadian colleges to send thousands of Indian nationals. But the report says once they arrive, instead of attending those Canadian schools, the newcomers illegally cross the border to the U.S. But which colleges are involved?
My sense is that these are probably private fly-by-night operators.
Experts say part of the problem, Ottawa makes the immigration laws, but it's up to the provinces to recognize a school as legitimate, and each province can make its own set of rules.
We need to have a coordinated approach between our provinces.
Another proposed solution, gather better data on migrants when they enter the country.
We need to have every single person crossing the border providing their fingerprints and photographs.
And keep track of when foreign students leave.
Where we can confirm the departure of non-citizens from our country. And until we do that, we're going to continue to be plagued with immigration fraud.
Why that hasn't been put in place yet, the immigration minister's office said Canada has a proactive and multi-layered approach to prevent, detect, and address fraud. But political watchers say the timing of the investigation is no coincidence. There's an ongoing icy relationship between Canada and India after claims India was behind the killing of a Sikh activist in BC. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi with apparent close ties to incoming President Donald Trump, who has ramped up his focus on border security.
This clearly could be an opportunity for India to further destabilize the nation, that there's evidence they have done actions to destabilize already.
And the RCMP has now told CTV News it's reached out to Indian officials to get more information about this investigation. Marilla.
Got it, Kamal. Thanks. Parts of the country got submerged this summer in the aftermath of hurricanes. Ontario got hit hard with floodwaters, stranding vehicles on a major highway in Toronto. Quebec also felt the brunt of Mother Nature. CTV Jean-Vier Beauchemin has a look back.
Storms and remnants of hurricanes.
We have bedroom, bathroom down here.
Temporarily transformed much of central Canada into a summer water world of sorts. The historic downpours launched a debate about how cities and towns should best prepare for 100-year floods, landing far more often now.
I'm positive that this is negligence, and there's definitely something that could be done to prevent this from happening again.
Deadly storm Beryl tracked through the Caribbean and the U.S. before its remnants dumped multiple rounds of torrential rain onto Toronto. Then on July 16th, nearly 100 millimeters of water rained down. More than a month's worth of rain in 3.5 hours, landing onto already saturated ground.
My message for government, help me please, doing something. This is not first time. This many times happened this happened 2 or 3 years ago. Today the same things. You need to take everything away. This everything garbage. Who is help for me? Who is pay for this?
The storm sparked power outages, flooded Union Station, a main transit hub, and filled up homes.
Literally shocked, disbelief.
The river of brown sludge tracked through rapper Drake's mansion in North York. The bill for the flash floods, nearly $1 billion of insurable damage.
The mold and the disgustingness of the water and all those issues, you're like, well, I need to get this properly cleaned and taken care of.
Then just a month later, it was Debbie's turn to move in from the U.S., hitting Toronto, but also wreaking havoc in Quebec.
The water was coming in here.
In some regions of the province, nearly 200 millimeters fell in a single day.
It was like a tornado went through. When we walked downstairs, like the water tank was falling. Even when we walked into our laundry room, my washing machine flipped upside down. C'est fou! Our TV, computer, we had a wood-burning stove. This was my full sewing room, washer, dryer, bathroom.
Cars, motorcycles parked in this garage were total loss. Water poured over a retaining wall, finding its way into basement after basement.
I felt like we were in the Titanic. It was like we had classical music going on upstairs, and we're watching everything flood, things floating downstairs.
As evidence of the damage continued to pile up curbside in the days that followed, more water spilled onto Montreal. This time, the explosion of water burst out of one of the largest water mains in the city.
84 pouces, alors c'est énorme. So this is why, and this conduct gives water to the east of Montreal.
Rushing water flooding homes and businesses.
I was here at 8 o'clock with the vision of horror of the water flowing out of this garage door. We tried to save what we could, but when the level was up to here, it was getting too dangerous.
Some of those left mopping up through the summer urged governments to find ways of keeping pace with the flash floods.
We need to look at the future and say, with climate change being what it is, what will be the building standards that we'll have to put in place?
Cities are devising plans for more green space, looking for money to replace aging infrastructure, anything to cope with all this water. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
One of the other big weather stories this year was the dramatic and costly August hailstorm that pummeled Calgary.
This is now the second largest natural disaster in Canadian history in terms of the financial toll it's having, and is going to put real pressure on insurance premiums moving forward.
The estimated cost pegged at $2.8 billion, second only to the 2016 Fort McMurray wildfire. The hail shattered windows, destroyed the siding on homes, and damaged cars. The storm also brought heavy rain. Even the city's airport not spared. The domestic terminal was hardest hit, with flooding and portions of the roof collapsing. WestJet grounded 16 planes that were damaged. Fast track to today and take a look at a Texas tornado.
Is it? Oh my God! Here, come inside.
Two massive twisters made their way across Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana. The severe weather impacted holiday travel heading into the weekend, some flights being canceled, others delayed. The National Weather Service advises all travelers to get off the road and seek shelter immediately when a twister is spotted. We're hearing from the chief of the World Health Organization about a close call in Yemen.
I was not sure actually I could survive because it was so close, few meters from where we were.
Yep, meters away when Israeli airstrikes hit Yemen's international airport on Thursday. 3 people were killed. And today, Israel's being accused by Gaza of detaining more than 240 Palestinians from a hospital raided on Friday. Medical staff among those being held. Coming up, a helpline for Canadians.
When they call, they may be in an acute state of distress.
Marking the 1-year anniversary of a life-saving service. Every year, around 4,500 people die by suicide in Canada. The Centre of Addiction and Mental Health says this country's new helpline has received 1,000 calls and 450 texts every day since its launch a year ago. Here's more from CTV's Heather Butts.
Good afternoon, 988.
Answering the call in a calm and caring voice, Colette Kelleher tries to create an instant sense of connection and support, a life-saving aspect of this service as a responder with 988, Canada's suicide crisis helpline.
When they call, they may be in an acute state of distress. When we get in that kind of tunnel vision, we don't feel we have options, or they don't feel they have options, and they're thinking about they would want to kill themselves. The only way out is death.
Launched 1 year ago, 988 was designed to be a lifeline for Canadians in crisis or those seeking support services for someone else. A simple 3-digit number to help connect people by text or phone to a trained responder closest to them.
Thank you for sharing with me. That takes huge courage to be.
Kelleher has worked in mental health for several decades and now works with one of the nearly 40 crisis networks across the country who answer the calls and texts.
You're always nervous because you don't know who you're talking. And I'm always hoping that they will trust me enough. Please let them trust me enough to share their story.
I understand.
And they do. The average call is 16 minutes, but many last up to an hour. Responders are trained to do a risk assessment and call 911 if needed.
Acknowledging to them, you made that call, so there's a part of you, you really know you're just on your own, but you're not on your own anymore.
The federally funded program led by the Centre for Addiction and Mental Health has answered more than 300,000 calls and texts in the last year. Responders in British Columbia answer an average of 3,500 calls and texts per month, 3,000 in Alberta and roughly 12,000 a month in Ontario.
The person who answers your call will be familiar with how you live, where you live, the kinds of supports that are available. Often that also means greater cultural safety.
This crisis center in Toronto is seeing calls from a new demographic, people who have not accessed services in the past.
It's a first point of contact for a lot of people that normally maybe don't know about the supports that are in their community.
Mental health distress and mental health challenges are greater than ever across the country, but experts say research shows this kind of service works, and they're prepared to take on a higher call volume.
It decreases people's distress, and we know that that saves lives. We need to do an even better job of letting Canadians know that the service is available and helping them to understand that the service is for them. No problem is too small.
Knowing there are people on the other end of the line to help them through.
I'm always impressed with people's own coping skills, their narrative. I find it magic that they will even be willing to trust me, and that makes me feel really humble when they share their story.
Heather Butts, CTV News, Toronto.
Straight ahead. Team Canada has the night off, but these juniors are all over it. Canada's World Junior team has a night off after that stunning loss to Latvia. Today, another international hockey tournament took over Ottawa.
Summer boys! Nice goal.
250 minor hockey teams from 6 countries showcased their talent at the annual Bell Capital Cup. 4,500 players ages 9 to 13 are playing in front of family, some coming from as far away as Austria.
Because of the kids, because they like it, and so we like it too.
Some also made the trek from Asia, a worthwhile trip for the kids, making the most of spending time together as a team. Straight ahead. Uniting a community one basket at a time. Players are usually focused on sinking balls during a basketball game, but at a tournament just outside of Toronto, the focus is on something else, building character. CTV's Siobhan Morris reports.
It's the highlight of the year for many Muslim youth, breaking a sweat, sinking baskets, and connecting with friends, old and new.
We're hosting people from across Canada and the United States as well.
About 500 people are part of the Nasser tournament, put on by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association. Players of all kinds of skill sets and ages.
We have Muslim youth as young as age 15 here, and some of the young Muslim youth, they're learning from the elders.
It's a labor of love that takes months with a lot of late nights to pull together.
For us to organize this, and it's just an absolute blessing.
Yes, there's healthy competition, but this tournament is about more than that.
Just to come together over the holidays, spread some brotherhood, some unity, and just have them doing something, something nice, something fun.
Off the court, the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association finds other ways to unite.
Going to downtowns of various cities and giving meals to those less fortunate. And this is also a program that we do during the holidays to make sure that our youth are engaged in positive things.
This weekend is a place to forge friendships that outlast the final buzzer.
To meet people from all over Canada is such an amazing experience. And then when I get a chance to visit them, it's a warm welcome from their end as well.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News, Toronto.
That's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. For all of us here at CTV National News, good night.
Canada's #1 newscast for excellence in journalism.
We begin tonight with breaking news.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina, winner of the Canadian Screen Award for Best National Newscast. Watch weeknights at 11.